All right, thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Call your first witness.
People call Miss Nia Tansel, and I will step on a different.
Thank you so much. Have a seat. Try to keep your voice up as if you're speaking towards the back door, okay? So we can all hear you. Whenever you're ready.
I am. And I'm gonna have to ask you just to keep your voice up, act like you're talking to the back of the room because you're a little soft spoken and that's okay. But we all want to make sure that we're hearing you correctly, okay? How are you employed?
I'm employed through Kelly Educational Services.
And what does Kelly Education Services do?
They're a temporary employment agency that services the Southfield, Michigan School District.
And what do you do in your capacity for Kelly Education Services?
I provide temporary services in teaching, in the administrative assistant, and in paraprofessional.
So does that mean that you're like a substitute teacher?
Yes.
And you do sometimes fill other roles that you're a professional?
Correct.
How long have you been employed by this Kelly Education Services?
3 years.
Did you have any educational experience before that?
Yes.
What did you do before that?
Before that, I worked as, I had a business.
What school system do you typically substitute for?
Currently counted, and Oakland.
Any particular building more than other buildings?
No.
Is there any particular role that you find yourself in more often than others?
It's a variety, whatever fits into the schedule.
I'd like to direct your attention to October 24th, 2025. Were you working that day?
Yes.
Where were you working?
Bernie Middle School, Kate, Bernie Middle School.
Okay. Is that Alice M. Burney K-8 school?
Yes.
What city is that?
Southfield, Michigan.
If you just want to turn behind you, this has already been admitted as People's Exhibit 1. Is that a photograph of the school?
Yes, it is.
And we have People's Exhibit 2 here. Is that the same school?
Yes, it is.
Just different perspectives, right?
Yes. Different entrances for the grade level.
Okay. Prior to October 24th, had you ever worked in this school before?
Yes.
About how many times?
It's hard to say. It's over the course of 3 years. Dozens of times.
On October 24th, what role did you have that day?
The substitute administrative assistant.
What did your duties include as the substitute administrative assistant?
That includes answering the telephone. It includes opening the door when students are late. The parents have to come in and sign it in. It includes answering telephone calls.
What time did you arrive at work that morning?
8 o'clock a.m.
At some point while you were working that day, did a student come down to the office to make a phone call?
Student came down to the office. We make a phone call. However, she came down to the office, I said.
Oh, so this, you're familiar with the student that I'm speaking about from that day?
Permitted.
Okay. And it's your impression that she was upset?
Yes.
What about that student made you feel that she was upset that day?
She was crying and she was upset because we had an incident in the classroom.
Did you make any observations about what the student did once she came into the office?
She sat at the table.
And which table was that?
There's a small table with a telephone right inside the office door, between the principal's door and the main entrance door.
And is that telephone able to be used by students on occasion?
Is their phone? Yes.
Okay. And so you saw the student sit down there in the chair?
Yes.
And did you see the student pick up the phone?
No.
Okay. Tell me what happened next with the student.
The student motioned me over to her and she was holding the telephone. And I came over and asked her what's going on. And she said, here.
Okay. We back up just a minute. So the student had made some sort of phone call. You just didn't see it earlier, right? Do you know about what time this was happening?
I do not recall. I was the only administrative assistant in the office, so I was handling everything that was going on at that time.
Do you know if it was morning or afternoon? Late morning or early morning?
Mid-morning, about 9:30. Okay.
So you said the student picked up the telephone and at some point she said,
Yes.
did she tell you anything else that caused you to take the telephone? You just said here.
He said here and I, basically,
And did you respond to her?
yes,
What did you say?
I asked her who it was,
And did she say who it was?
Yeah.
What did she reply?
her mother,
Did you take the phone?
yes,
When you took the phone, did you talk to the person on the other end?
yes.
Were you able to clearly hear that person's voice?
I was able to hear a voice clearly.
Did you hear that person speak? I'm not asking what she said just yet, but did you hear that person speak?
Yes,
Was there any sort of accent or anything about the voice that made it difficult to understand what that person was saying?
the rate of speed,
Okay. So that person was speaking very quickly?
yes.
Approximately how long did that conversation last when you took the phone?
About 30 seconds.
Do you know who was on the phone?
Do I personally know who was on the phone?
Well, I guess did the person introduce who they were during the
Person
course of the phone
said
call?
that she was the mother,
The mother of the student that made the phone call?
yes.
Now, how would you describe the caller's tone of voice during the conversation besides being a fast feed?
She's upset. Sounded as though she was upset, she was angry, fearful.
What about the caller's voice made you feel that she was upset, angry, or fearful?
The tone of her voice.
Anything about the volume that was notable to you?
Well, she was, excited. It was her volume was turned up.
I'm sorry, her volume was turned up?
It was turned up. Yes.
Okay. So she was speaking loudly.
Yes.
Was she yelling?
Yes. Yes.
Now I'd like to talk about what the caller said. To the very best of your ability, I would like you to tell this jury exactly what the caller said. I'm not asking you to summarize. I'm asking you to use the exact wording that the caller used, whatever that wording may be.
The caller said, my daughter just called and said that she was being bullied at school. If my daughter's hurt, I'm going to go up and shoot up the school.
Now, you just explained that in a very calm manner. Was that the same manner that you received that message from the caller?
No.
Okay. How would you describe the manner that was used?
Well, it was more excited, more frantic.
Now, those were the exact words. I'm going to come and shoot up the school.
To the best of my recollection.
Do you specifically recall the word shoot?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any way that you could have misunderstood that word? Maybe the caller said, I'm going to close down the school.
No.
Could the caller have said, I'm going to shut down the school?
No.
Why does that word stick out to you in your mind from your memory of this event several months ago?
Because I did not sign up to be a substitute teacher to be shot.
So it was a little traumatic to receive that message?
Yes.
Did the caller say anything else to you at this time?
I handed the phone over to an administrator.
So it's your testimony that nothing further was said of substance at this time.
If she said, no, there was not.
Did the caller say that she was going to come shoot up the school one time, two times during this phone call?
During that phone call, I remember one time, and at that point I said, hold on.
Okay. And now you said you handed off the phone.
Yes.
To whom did you hand off the phone?
Mr. Enoch,
Who is Mr. Enoch?
he was acting as the substitute principal that day.
And where was he at the time you received this phone call?
He was in a meeting in the principal's office.
Where is the principal's office relative to the office where you were at?
It's in the same office.
Was he in the same room or behind a door?
He was behind the door.
Did you have to knock on the door?
Yes.
Did Mr. Enoch himself answer the door?
Yes, he did.
And you said you handed him the phone?
I said, Mr. Enoch, where's the phone? This is a parent on here that is, that needs to speak to you. I need to hand over this call to you.
And did Mr. Enoch take the phone from you?
Yes,
Did you see him speak with the caller?
yes,
Do you remember how long approximately he spoke with the caller?
not very long.
And did you see what happened with that phone next?
It was handed over to Ms. Pritchett.
And who is Miss Pritchett?
She is the vice principal, at that time, she was the vice principal of the elementary school.
Was Miss Pritchett in the same office with Mr. Enoch?
Yes.
And you saw him hand her the phone?
He came out of the room. The phone is, right by the door.
Okay, so it's a corded phone.
Corded phone.
And did you see her speak on the phone?
Yes,
Do you know approximately how long she did, or were you busy doing other things?
I was too busy doing other things.
Now, what happened after that phone call where the student handed you the phone and we just discussed it? What happened next?
As far as what I was doing or as far as what the student did?
Whatever you recall happening next, do you know what the student did next?
At that time, the young lady, there was other students coming into the office. The young lady was sent, I don't know when, or because I was doing other things. A young man took her place at the desk. At that point, a phone call came in. I answered that phone call.
So you say a phone call came in, was that the same phone that was on that little table?
No, this was the main phone call.
Okay, and that was your job that day to answer those calls?
Correct.
So when you picked up that second phone call, what did you hear?
The person on the phone was excited and identified herself as the girl's mother.
Okay. Did you recognize the voice somewhat from the call that you did just previously?
This was the same phone.
Okay. Now, you said the person on the phone was excited. Can you describe the tone of voice and any other words in addition to excited?
They're excited, very angry. Asking about her daughter's situation.
What words did she use to ask about her daughter's situation?
Why is your daughter in the hallway?
What else did the caller say to you during this phone call?
That her daughter, if anyone hurts her daughter, because her daughter is sitting in the hallway, that she was going to come up and make sure that someone would pay for that they would be hurt.
Okay, did she say someone's going to pay for that and that they'll be hurt, or did she use different words?
She did say that that she would shoot up the school.
So she said she would shoot up the school a second time.
Yeah.
Was her daughter in fact sitting in the hallway at that time?
Yes.
Did you notify anybody that the daughter was sitting in the hallway, or?
She was instructed.
So presumably she called her mother while she was sitting
She
there.
called her mother while she was sitting in the hallway.
Now you're on the phone call, the second phone call, and there's another threat that the caller is going to shoot up the school. What did you do with the phone this second time?
Mr. Enoch was passing him. He was in and out of the office. And at that point, he handled that and the young lady was brought back in.
The young lady, you mean the student?
Yes,
And by brought back in, what do you mean by that?
brought back into the office at some point.
So she was no longer sitting in the hallway?
Good.
Did you tell Mr. Enoch the specific words that you heard on the phone, or just that it was an upset parent?
I said the young lady's parent on the phone again.
Okay. And you handed him the phone that second time as well, right?
Yes.
What did you do personally after handing the phone off to Mr. Enoch that second time?
You have other students and you have other secretarial tasks to do.
Did you make a 911 call?
No, I did not.
Did you call the police?
No, I did not.
Is that your job to do that as a substitute receptionist?
No, it's not.
Okay. And whose job who would typically do that in a public school from your experience?
Kelly has a set of rules that we have to sign on. And our rule says that we are not to make 911 calls. It's up to the administrators to make 911 calls.
And the administrators here were Mr. Enoch and Ms. Pritchett.
Yes.
Now, you said that the student was brought into the office. Do you know what happened with the student next?
I really did not realize that she was in the office immediately because I know that she was in the hallway. And I remember I told the mother on the phone, your daughter is fine. I'm looking at her right now. She's fine. And she said that the girl was concerned about passing time and that if the other two girls were in the hallway and passed her, that they could attack her. So she wanted her out of the hallway.
So passing time means when all the students come into the hallway to go to their next class?
Correct.
At some point, did you have further interaction with either the caller or the student this day?
The next interaction was when the woman who identified herself as a mother came up to the school to get her daughter.
Can you describe physically the woman who identified herself as the student's mother?
She's like a short woman, like brown golden skin, hair was pulled back off her face.
African American?
Yes.
Would you be able to recognize that person if you saw them again?
And not totally, but partially because she was going back and forth and there was a lot going on in the office.
So I'm not gonna ask you to do that if you don't think that totally you would be able to point to that person again. But tell me what happened when that caller came into the office.
She was walking back and forth very quickly, demanding that she see her daughter. And so that's why I didn't really get a great view of her because she was just walking back and forth. Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? And I said, your daughter's right there. Mr. Enoch had come out of the office and the door was open. And I said, there's your daughter right there.
And when you pointed to the daughter right there, was that the same little girl that handed you the phone and said, here? Okay. And that was the student that the caller had identified that she was the mother of that student, right?
Correct.
Now, is the space, that office space, is it pretty big or is it smaller?
It's like a medium-sized office. Everything is pretty compact. You know, you have a front desk and you have a window in front of the partition window, and it's maybe like the one seat by that smaller desk, and then you have the principal's office space and the secretary space. There's two desks, one for one secretary, one for the other secretary. And then you have a computer terminal in front of you that kind of blocks your view when you're sitting in there because it's a little bit higher than what you are. So that's why my view of her was kind of obscured because of the height of the computer terminals.
Okay. But you clearly saw her pacing back and forth. How fast was she walking?
Very fast.
Did you say anything to this woman?
Yes.
What did you say?
Asked her that. I said, your daughter's fine. I said, you can calm down. I said, here. She said, she's right here. She's okay. She's fine.
The person that came into the office didn't have a firearm or anything.
No.
Did the person who was in the office, the woman, did she listen to you at all?
No.
When you spoke with the caller on the phone, did you feel that that caller on the phone was listening to you during those phone calls?
No.
Why is that?
The rapidness of her speech, I couldn't get a word in.
And you said she seemed upset, right?
Definitely.
Do you remember anything else that the woman said while she was in the office, pacing back and forth?
She wanted to speak to, Mr. Enoch said that he was in the office speaking to the young ladies about it. And she said that she wanted to speak to their parents, not the students. She wanted to speak to the parents. And then on her way out, she said she'd be back on Monday and everybody should be in place so that they go out and talk about what happened.
So she didn't make any threats at that time?
She said that she would definitely have a problem if the parents weren't there on Monday when she would come back.
Okay. Did she threaten to use a firearm to commit an act of violence while she was physically there in the building?
I don't remember that third time.
Okay. Is it pretty fair to say that it would have stuck in your head if she would have used that language at that time?
Yes.
So at some point, did you write down what happened?
No.
You never made a written statement?
Oh, I did. I did make a good statement.
Okay. And at what point did you do that?
I did that after I spoke to the other secretary and she returned to the counseling center office, and then Ms. Pritchett came and asked me to put everything on paper.
This was after the woman had already left the office, right?
Correct.
Did she leave without further incident when she did leave?
Yes,
And did her daughter go with her?
I believe so.
Now you were still in the building when you wrote out your statement?
Yes,
And everything that you wrote in that statement was correct, right?
to the best of my knowledge.
And who directed you to write that statement?
Ms. Pritchett,
And that's the assistant principal, right?
No.
Who did you give the statement to?
Ms. Pritchett,
Do you know how this issue came to Ms. Pritchett's attention?
through Ms. Hill.
So you never told Ms. Pritchett that this threat was made?
Yes, well, I handed over the phone to Mr. Enoch and said a threat has come in. His parent is very upset on the phone. You need to talk to her.
Okay.
And then Mr. Enoch handed it to Ms. Pritchett.
Okay. But you don't know what was said on the phone to Mr. Enoch or Ms. Pritchett?
I do not.
What time did you leave the school that day?
4:30.
I'm sorry, was that?
4:30.
And were you ever contacted by the police or did they attempt to contact you?
I was not contacted by the police. I was contacted by Miss Pritchett.
Okay. And do you recall? Actually, I won't ask you that. Ms. Pritchett just wanted to further details about the incident.
She wanted to notify me about some changes made to the statement.
And changes by you or by her?
On her.
Now, you've testified as you've been sitting here today, that you received 2 phone calls and that the person on the other end of the call clearly said to you, I'm gonna come up to the school and shoot up the school.
Yes.
Is there any way you could be mistaken about those words?
No.
Are you positive that the word shoot was used?
Yes.
And you were able to hear that clearly?
Right.
And if those were not the words used, you would tell us, right?
Yes.
Okay, Counselor, sir. Just a second before you start. Can I see both counsel up here for just a moment? Okay, cross-examination.
All right, Ms. Tansel, you work at the school on a temporary basis, correct?
Right.
Do you know when the last time you worked at the school before the 24th was?
Before the 24th?
Yes.
I worked there a few weeks ago.
All right. And were you familiar at all with the student that had come into the office?
No.
Were you familiar at all with her mother?
No.
So that has been the first time that you've interacted with that person anyway.
Right.
All right. I want to be clear on this. When you said you took the phone call, the first phone call, was that a student phone?
Yes.
And it's corded,
Yes.
and that's specifically for students to use.
Correct.
And when the student said here and handed it off to you, you just took it? Can you explain how that happened?
I stood up out of the chair and walked over to where she was and asked her who it was. And at that point, she said, my mom, and I asked hello.
Okay, and then from hello, you started hearing a bunch of like loud talking,
Upset. Yes.
fast talking,
Yes.
upset talking.
Yes.
Did you ever identify yourself on the phone?
No.
Okay. And this conversation is very short, right?
Right.
And it lasts about 30 seconds in your estimation.
Right.
And then you handed the phone off to Mr. Enoch or Ms. Pritchett?
Mr. Enoch.
Enoch?
Yes.
That's how I say it? Okay. Mr. Enoch then took the phone.
Yeah.
And was on the phone with the person, to your recall.
Yes.
And then you saw Mr. Enoch hand the phone to Ms. Pritchett at some point?
He motioned for her to come out of the office where they were having a meeting. She came out and took the phone. And he went back in.
Okay. And then at some point, there's a second phone call. Right.
Yes.
And the second phone call comes into a different phone?
Yes.
Which phone is that?
The main office phone.
And this, you answer this directly?
Yes.
And it's the same woman?
It sounds like the same woman. She
Okay,
identified herself as the mother.
okay. And did you, again, eventually hand this phone off to Mr. Enoch and Ms. Pritchett?
I did.
As you recall how soon that was before you did that?
It was not Miss Pritchett. That was Mr. Enoch.
Okay, and about how quick during the call was that? Do you recall how many seconds that might have been?
Because the conversation was about her daughter in the hallway.
Okay.
And so at that point, it was very busy. I can't remember exactly how long I was on the phone with the mother about the daughter being in the hallway.
Now, when the prosecutor first asked you about this, you said something effective like, she told people they were gonna pay a price. Is that a phrase that was used, pay a price?
No, it was not a police.
Okay, so that's something you use when describing.
Probably paraphrased it.
To paraphrase. Okay, so you're paraphrasing the phrase pay a price, right?
Yes.
All right. On the second call, did you identify yourself?
Second call, I said, well, hello, Bernie School. I usually,
Okay.
it confuses people if I use my name as a substitute. They don't know who it is. So I just usually say, this is Brian, elementary school.
Okay. And again, you indicated you heard the word shoot twice.
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed you didn't say the word blow up, right?
No.
Or didn't say the phrase blow up.
No.
Okay. Now you would acknowledge that these 2 phone calls are essentially your only interaction with this person, right? And at some point, this person came up to the school, correct?
Correct, yes.
And was that maybe 20, 30 minutes later-ish?
It was, it was more than that.
Hour?
Closer to when the parents started taking the children out early, about 2, 3.
Okay, so the woman came up to the school like hours later then?
This was a long period of time that happened, or this happened over a period of time.
Okay.
So it was more so towards past 2 o'clock. I think.
Would it be fair to say the phone calls happened like earlier in the morning?
They were spread out. The young lady was in the office all day.
Did the first phone call happen then?
Yes.
All right, and the second phone call, so it was spread out from the first phone call.
I know it was passing time. I can't remember which passing time, closer to lunchtime, closer to the students' lunchtime,
Okay.
because
And-
I don't believe she went to lunch.
It would be fair to say that after the first phone call, you did not tell anyone about the word shoot being uttered, did you?
Yes, when I told Mr. Enoch, I said his parent is on the phone making threats. I think you need to take this call.
Did you use the word shoot or did you use the word make or the phrase making threats?
I believe I used the word shoot to the best of my recollection as I handed it off to him.
Okay. And fair to say you did not contact the police or 911 or anything after this first phone call?
It goes against my job to do that. I can't do that.
To your knowledge, no one else did that either.
My knowledge.
Okay. And same with the second phone call. Again, you heard this phrase. You recall the second phone call having said the word shoot to any other staff member.
As told Mr. Enoch, his parent is on the phone again, making threats.
Okay. See, and again, you would agree you didn't call 911 or contact the authorities at that point.
Mr. Enoch is on the phone.
Okay, you didn't, when I say the authorities, I mean the police department.
No.
All right. And to your knowledge, no one else did either, correct?
To my knowledge.
Okay. You didn't speak with the police at all that day, did you?
No.
And in fact, you didn't speak with the police at all in this case.
No.
You haven't spoken to police at any point during this case, correct?
No.
All right. So no one has spoken to you, no one from the Southfield Police Department at all has spoken to you.
I'm not sure. Are you considered self-defense? No.
I know it's a little confusing sometimes. It's kind of one mystery as far as asking questions. I apologize. It's true then that the parent made the scene that day was at the school, correct?
Correct.
And the parent interacted with Mr. Enoch to your knowledge?
Yes,
And did the parent also interact with Ms. Pritchett to your knowledge?
that's my knowledge.
Okay. Did the parent have any direct contact with you beyond just you seeing the parent pacing or anything like that?
No.
Okay. And you heard the parent talking and the parent was talking about, what was the parent talking about, Peter?
The parent was talking about basically getting revenge on anyone that would hurt her daughter. She wanted to make sure her daughter was protected. She was going to be back on Monday to speak to, and she wanted the other two parents to be up there. She didn't want to speak to the children. She wanted to speak to the adults.
I'll be clear what she asked for. She asked for the parents to be there on Monday, correct? Okay. This is about, to the best of your knowledge, or you gathered information from this child about what was going on? Did you talk to the child that was in the office about what was happening?
You mean at the beginning of all of this?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
And to your knowledge, was this about bullying or alleged bullying?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to be clear. You would agree blow up was not a term that you said you heard today, right? All right. You did do a written statement in this case, correct?
I did a written statement.
I can't tell if that was is that yes, you did a written statement?
I did a written statement. However, it was edited.
Who edited the statement?
I believe it was Ms. Pritchett.
Okay. To be fair, Ms. Pritchett wasn't on the phone with you at any point during these conversations, correct?
On the conversations with the mother.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So she would not have been listening in while she heard your conversation with mom.
She was in the meeting.
Okay. So Ms. Pritchett wouldn't have had any personal knowledge about what was said on the phone.
She spoke to the mother on the phone.
She wouldn't have had any personal knowledge about what was said to you on the phone, right? Okay. And Ms. Pritchett, at some point you did a written statement, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Pritchett wanted you to edit the written statement. How did that happen?
I didn't find out about it until later.
Okay. So you didn't see an edited version of your statement?
Not until Miss Courtney mentioned it to me.
Okay, so
When you say Miss Courtney, you mean this lady, the prosecutor,
I forget her last name.
prosecutor here,
Prosecutor.
so this is very important.
Miss Rosenau.
Did you see a copy of the written statement that we're talking about?
When she emailed me the statements with the subpoena,
Okay.
and I saw it, we were actually talking on the telephone, and she said, "You said that school was that she was going to blow up," and I said, "No, I don't recall making that statement."
Okay.
And she said, "Yes, you did. It's on the sheet." I said,
So-
"I have to go with you." And then she expanded. She saw that it was edited with initials on it.
So you've seen the statement that we're talking about.
Yes.
May I post this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hand you a 2-page written statement. I was asking you, is this the statement that we're talking about, written statement?
This is the statement that I wrote, but like I said, there were edits on.
What are the edits on there that you did right?
Blow up, I did have right. And let's see. I did write Aubrey. This one here, and I can't really read it that clearly. This one later, I can't read the writing.
I thought you can just.
Yes, go ahead.
Be easier for me to.
It's right here. I didn't have that.
Yes, okay, so the phrase shoot and blow up, can you read that?
Shoot and blow up, I didn't write that.
You didn't write the phrase shoot and blow up on the statement?
No.
Okay, so where it says shoot and blow up on the statement, you didn't write that?
No.
Okay, and just to be clear, is most of the rest of that your written statement?
Yeah.
Did you write the word shoot anywhere else in the statement that you recall?
No.
Did not, okay, so the only part in the statement, in the written statement that you wrote, where it says shoot, you didn't actually write that part.
Well, at the beginning, when we had the first phone call. When I first spoke to
I'm
her.
just asking about the statement. So the written statement, you would acknowledge that the written statement says shoot one time, in it, correct?
Yes.
And that one time where it's written, you did not write that.
It said, she said, right,
Again, I'm just gonna re-ask the question. You would acknowledge that there's only one point in the statement where the word shoot is used, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't write that. Right. There's only one point in the statement where the word phrase blow up is used, correct? And you didn't write that.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's only one quote in this statement that you put in quotes. You remember that?
that she was going to come to the school.
There's a quote in here, turn the school out. Do you remember writing the quote unquote, turn the school out in your statement?
No.
Let me refresh your recollection to read it again. I'm just gonna hand it to you and refer you to the bottom of page 2. Reapproaching, I'm just gonna re-ask that question. The phrase, quote, turn the school out. Did you write that in the statement?
I told her.
Okay. And you would acknowledge there's no other quotes in the statement, correct? What time did you go home that day?
Okay.
All right, and the writing of the statement, did it happen while you were still at school or after you went home?
Still at school.
All right. And then you went home
Yes.
and you learned of edits to the statement obviously months later.
Ms. Pritchett did say she had made some edits. I didn't know what they were.
One moment, Judge. Okay, I'm not sure. Thank you.
New redirect.
Ms. Tansel, through your testimony, you've talked about 3 interactions with the caller and the mother of the student who came up to the school, right?
Good.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin was questioning you about your statement. Did anybody direct you how to write this statement?
No.
Would you agree with me that you wrote in your statement, she was making verbal threats about coming up to the school to hurt the girls and attack the admin too?
Yes.
And if you want to see it, I can show it to you again.
I didn't.
What, for that portion of your statement, were you talking about a phone call or the in-person conversation with the defendant?
Refresh me on what you're asking.
So maybe it would be easier if I just hand you back your statement. Who asked you to write this statement?
Ms. Pritchett.
Did Ms. Pritchett give you any direction about what you should or should not include in the statement?
She said to include everything that I remember.
Okay. That line that I just questioned you about, do you see where I've just indicated that in blue pen?
In parentheses.
Yes. Now, I didn't write anything on there, right? Just the blue lines to direct your attention. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
When you wrote that, what were you referring to when you wrote that specific sentence?
Says that she was making verbal threats. Is that you're referring to? It was that she was making verbal threats to the school and was that injured.
And was that regarding the phone call, one of the phone calls, or was that regarding when she came up in person?
Well, it says she was making verbal threats about coming up to the school to hurt the girls and the administration. So that was before she was at the school.
So she was making verbal threats to come up to the school and hurt the girls and hurt the administration.
Right.
Is that you paraphrasing that, what happened in that phone call?
Yes.
What were the actual words that the defendant used?
Well, it was months ago, and I can't say that I can tell you exactly the exact words. She did mention coming up to the school with a gun, and that she would hurt anyone that hurt her daughter.
So you are positive and there's no doubt in your mind that her threat, and that's what you're referring to in your statement, involved coming up to the school with a gun to shoot up the school.
Right.
Why didn't you write that exact language there in your statement instead of putting she was making verbal threats to hurt the girls and the admin too? Why didn't you choose to use quotation marks like you did later in your statement to use her exact wording?
Because she was upset about her daughter being bullied at the school.
I guess I'm just asking why you made the choice not to put the quotation marks around that part. Or what, maybe it wasn't a conscious choice. You tell me.
Well, I was writing this and Miss Pritchett and Mr. Enoch, and they were waiting for me to finish, and I had written down the information, and I didn't honestly think the mother was
I'm just asking why you may or may not have chosen to put quotation marks around a statement, just in that particular instance. Did you give any thought to it at all? That maybe I should write down the exact language?
well, no.
Okay. Now, later on in your statement, and Mr. McLaughlin pointed that out to you, on the bottom of page 2, you did put some quotation marks in there, right?
Yeah.
And those quotation marks say, she said she was going to turn the school out.
Right.
What does turn the school out mean? If you know.
Jack, Judge, this isn't about the witness's feelings about what a phrase means. This is about the actual words that are used.
Yeah. Any response? Because I kind of agree with him.
If you know.
Jack, Judge, this isn't about the witness's feelings about what a phrase means. This is about the actual words that are used.
Yeah. Any response? Because I kind of agree with him.
I can withdraw the question.
All right, sustain then.
That quotation, that portion that's quoted where it says she's going to turn the school out, was that portion of your statement referring to the in-person interaction you had with the defendant or on the phone? And if you need to look at it to refresh your recollection, please do.
That was this was referring to the in-person interaction.
Okay, so when you said in your written statement that the defendant said she was going to turn the school out, that was the in-person interaction.
Right.
But shooting up the school, you heard that on the phone.
Right.
And you heard that on both phone calls.
Right.
Is there any way that you could be mistaken about what you heard regarding, I'm going to come shoot up the school?
Within the realm of possibilities, there is always room for miscommunication, especially when you have a situation that was that volatile.
But did you hear those words clearly?
I believe I heard those words clearly.
When you say in the realm of possibilities, I mean, I understand that we can talk about society and larger concepts all day, but the specific words that were said to you that day, do you recall those words clearly?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you are positive that the defendant said she was going to shoot up the school,
Yes,
and not once, but twice,
correct.
and that was on the phone,
Yes.
nothing further.
That's one follow-up. But
One follow-up.
when the prosecutor just redirected you, you used the word gun. Did you not? You said that the word gun. You would agree the word gun was not used, correct?
Well, she said she was going to shoot up the school. I mean,
Okay, I gotta be clear about the words. So I'm asking you, did, in your recall, the word gun get mentioned?
I don't recall her saying gun.
That's it. Thank you.
All right then, ma'am, you're all set. Thank you so much. You can step down. Next witness.
People will call Mr. Enoch, just watch your step up this way, thank you. There you go. Now, how are you employed?
I am employed by Southfield Public Schools as a resource room teacher at Bernie K.
And you said Bernie K-8?
Correct.
Is that the school and the photograph behind you? I'm showing people's exhibit 2.
Yes, it is.
And how long have you been employed as the resource room teacher?
I started teaching the resource room this school year, but I was hired in the fall of 2019.
As a teacher?
Yes.
Do you ever hold any other roles at the Bernie grade school?
Once in a while, my principal, Ms. Baldwin, will ask me to stand in for her if she has to be out as principal.
And so what does that mean if you stand in for the principal?
It usually means monitoring the hallways, making sure students are getting to class, helping teachers when I can, monitoring the lunchroom. Once in a while, students will come into the office with an issue. They may need some counseling to work out the problem. So those things.
I'd like to direct your attention to October 24th, 2025.
Mhm.
Were you working that day?
Yes, I was.
What time did you get to work on October 24th?
I usually get to work pretty early. I probably arrived to work around 7:20.
And did you have something that you, I guess, first of all, what role were you in on that day, October 24th?
Ms. Baldwin had asked me to fill in for her as principal.
And were you doing any important tasks that morning while you were filling in as principal?
Ms. Baldwin had an interview scheduled for an incoming teacher, and so she asked me to sit in on the interview along with Assistant Principal Pritchett and another staff member.
And at some point, I guess during the interview or perhaps after the interview, was something brought to your attention?
Yes, it was brought to my attention that there was a parent that was on the phone that was upset, and that day we had a substitute secretary. So while we were in the interview, either she or somebody knocked on the door to ask us to come out and speak with to the parent on the phone. I do not recall speaking to the parent on the phone, but I think Ms. Pritchett did at that point. And then we went back to the interview after that.
Would it be a fair statement to say that in your role, especially when you're standing in as the principal,
Mhm.
you speak with a lot of parents on the phone?
It can be, yeah. Mhm.
Do you remember every single conversation you had with parents on the phone?
No,
How many calls do you receive from parents, I guess, per day when you're in that role?
it depends. It could be upwards of 10, 15, or 20.
And that's each day that you're working in that position?
Yes.
Now, you said you don't remember talking on the phone. Do you remember anybody handing you the phone?
I did not recall when you first were brought it to my attention for today. It's possible that the phone was passed to me, but I don't recall speaking to the parent on the phone.
Would it be appropriate for a temporary receptionist to hand off the phone to you when you're acting in that role?
Sure. Mhm.
So if you don't recall speaking on the phone, you don't remember any threats being made, is that fair?
Definitely not.
Now, you just testified earlier that you were told that a parent was angry or upset.
I was told that the parent was upset or concerned, one of those words or something similar was used about their daughter. And it was my intent to address the concern once the interview was over.
Was it your understanding at that time that a specific threat against the school had been made?
No,
You would have known at that time that a specific threat had been made, what would have been your next action?
I would have immediately alerted Ms. Pritchett, who was our assistant principal, who was there that day. We would have informed the upper level chain of command at Southwood Public Schools and called the police.
So you said what you were concerned about was the student, is that fair?
Yes.
Just briefly, what was going on with the student?
The student, along with some other students, was having an issue that I think originated in the lunchroom that day or the day before. And so I had all of the students come into the teacher, or excuse me, the principal's main office to counsel them over what the issue was and see if we could get to an agreement.
And were you able to resolve that issue effectively, in your opinion?
We were getting it.
Did something stop you from getting there all the way?
Yes.
What happened?
While I was working with the young ladies, I could hear a voice in the main office that was elevated, that was loud. And so when I opened the door, that's when I witnessed the parent that was in the main office, who was very upset, looking for her daughter.
Would you recognize that parent if you were to see that person again?
Yes,
Do you see that person in the courtroom?
I do.
Would you please point to that person and indicate an item of her clothing?
She's sitting right here wearing a white top.
May the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
So ordered.
So you say that you were interrupted from speaking with the students when the defendant came into the office, right?
Yes.
Describe for the jury the demeanor of the person as you saw her in the office.
Her voice was elevated. As soon as I opened the door and I could see her, she looked very upset. I was trying to explain to her what was happening in the main office. I was trying to counsel the students and fill her in on the information that I learned about. But she did not seem like she wanted to really listen to me. She kept saying over and over again that she wanted her daughter to give me her daughter. So once I realized, and it didn't take very long, that I was not going to be able to speak with her, that's when I had her daughter come out of the principal's main office and leave with her.
And do you know if that was her daughter that it was involved in a phone call to her earlier?
That was my understanding.
Was that the first time that you ever had any in-person interaction with the defendant?
To my knowledge.
And what happened after the defendant came in and you pointed out her daughter?
She signed her daughter out and she took her daughter out of school.
At this point in the day, did you understand that any specific threats had been made?
No.
What had Ms. Tansel communicated to you up until this point about the interactions with the defendant?
I had not heard what she had spoken to her about at that point of the day.
Is it fair to say that the office is a very busy atmosphere?
Very busy.
And are there a lot of people coming in and out?
Yes,
Is it possible that Ms. Tansel may have told you something that you didn't hear correctly or just didn't understand because of the busyness of the office?
it's possible, but I've been teaching for over 20 years, so certain things stick out to me. If it was a threat, that would have stuck out to me.
What happened after the defendant signed her daughter out of school? That's relevant to this.
I went back into the office and continued to counsel the students that were in there. They reached their agreement and I sent them back to class.
Do you know if the student is still in Southfield Public Schools?
Which student?
The student that was involved, the child of the
Yes.
defendant.
Yes,
You've been working for Southfield Public Schools for a while and you're filling in as the principal, so do you know if the calls to the school are recorded?
not to my knowledge.
Have you ever heard a recording from a call to the school?
Have I ever heard a recording?
Has there ever been an instance throughout your career where somebody played for you a recording of something that happened on the telephone?
Not to my knowledge.
So as far as you know, those calls aren't recorded.
To my knowledge.
Did you ever have any contact with the police over this incident?
I did. Not until we met.
Did you speak with other school employees in regards to the incident?
Just the people who were there that day, Miss Pritchett especially.
When did the nature of the threats come to your attention?
Not till the end of the day.
Approximately what time is that?
Dismissal, which is around 4.
And how did that come to your attention?
I believe Miss Pritchett told me what Miss Tansel had told her.
So you learned from Ms. Pritchett.
I believe so.
Did you ever hear the defendant make any threats in your presence while at the school?
I did not.
And if you don't remember a phone call, you definitely don't remember any threats on the phone as well?
I do not.
Okay.
Cross-examination.
Enoch,
The this.
sorry. You agree in this case, you don't remember having a phone call with the detective, correct?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, you personally never reported to anyone that used the word shoot or the phrase blow up, correct?
That's good.
So if someone says that you reported to them, you heard the phrase word shoot or the phrase blow up, that would be incorrect, right?
I reported it?
Yes.
Yes, I did not.
Okay. You would also agree you've been doing this for a long time, right? All right. And if you had heard a threat that had been made, you would have called the police, correct?
Definitely.
So if someone had told you there had been threats to another person, you would have called the police.
Yes.
If someone had told you the word shoot had been used, you would have called the police.
Yes.
So it'd be fair to say you didn't hear those words communicated to you, correct?
Correct.
Because you would have called the police, right?
Yes.
All right. And the word that you had been communicated, you recall, is that the parent was upset. Is that fair?
Yes. Some words similar to that.
The parent, who you identified today in court, came to the office, correct?
Correct.
And the parent interacted with you, correct?
Yes.
And at no point was the word shoot or the phrase blow up used in your presence, correct?
No.
All right. And how long did the parent interact with you for?
Could have been more than a couple minutes. Less than that, maybe seconds.
And the daughter was released at some point?
Yes. Almost immediately.
And what time was this? Was this around lunch hour or some other time?
This would have been closer to lunchtime. I would say it was after 11.
And then the threatening language that came up later, that didn't come up till around 4, you said, correct?
That's right.
All right. And you have never interacted with the police in this case at all, correct?
No, I did not.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, sir. You may step down. You're all set. Next witness.
People call Ms. Pritchett, would you mind that? Thank you very much, and you're free to go.
Okay.
That's understood. Please tell the jury how you're employed.
I am employed with the Southfield Public School District. And
And what do you do for the Southfield Public School District?
I'm the vice principal, on K-8. Right now I work at Vandenberg, which is kindergarten through 5th grade.
Where did you work before this building that you're working at?
Bernie, K-8.
Is there a reason you're no longer at Bernie?
Yes, so Bernie is under construction. So kindergarten through 8th grade has to split up. I am over at the Vandenberg campus, which is right? And the principal works at the SWAC location, which is middle school.
Do you have any previous experience as an educator or in school administration prior to this?
Yes, so I've been in education for 30 years. 30 years as a classroom teacher, 17 years as a building administrator.
I'd like to direct your attention to October 24th, 2025. Were you working that day?
Yes,
And was that at the Bernie K through 8
that was
school?
at the Bernie Page.
Okay, and there's a photo of the school behind you, right? Did you see that as sat down?
Oh, yes,
That's the school?
without the bonds.
That's it. What time did you get to work on October 24th?
About 7:45
And did you do
or arrival time.
any, I guess, larger administrator tasks on the morning of October 24th?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so my typical,
Okay.
routine when I arrive to work is check my emails, check my email. That's not
Okay.
that day, do my walkthroughs with this, building. I typically focus on K-5, so my walkthroughs are not always on the middle school side unless I'm needed, but that morning it was kindergarten.
And after your general tasks, did you participate in some sort of meeting or events that morning?
Yeah, so, we were interviewing that morning for a second grade teaching position. So for that reason, I was in the main office. As you can see, the building is large. K-5 is at the back of the building, so I went to the front of the building to facilitate an interview.
And the room that you were interviewing in, is that adjacent to the office where the receptionists are at?
Yes, it's the, principal's office, so it's right inside of the main office.
At some point, either during or perhaps after your interview, was something brought to your attention?
Yes, so, the guest secretary, is typically not our, secretary, knocked on the door and told, Mr. Enoch, another teacher and the interviewee, I opened the door, that there was a parent on the phone, that needed to speak with administration.
So you heard her say there's a parent on the phone that needs to speak with you.
Needed to speak with administration.
Okay. Did you see her hand the phone to Mr. Enos?
No, I, received the call. The phone was handed to me.
So who handed you the phone?
Miss Tansel,
And did you speak with the person on the phone?
I did, I told the person, parent that I was in a meeting and that I would call back.
And do you remember what the person on the phone said to you at that time?
No,
Did you end the call after saying that you would call them back?
yes,
What was the name of the person on the phone?
Miss Miles,
And I'm not gonna ask for the student's name, but her child was a student at the school.
yes,
Have you ever met Miss Miles in person?
no,
Did you in fact call Miss Miles back?
no.
Why not?
Because Mr. Enoch was the administrator on duty, and I asked him if he needed my support, he said he would handle it, so I didn't see a reason to call her back.
Do you know what the caller was upset about, what Miss Miles was upset about?
I did not have specific details, no.
Do you know if Mr. Enoch intervened in some way to help remedy the situation?
Well, when he told me that he would handle it, I just assumed, that he did remedy, the situation, and I proceeded to go to my office.
And would it be fair to say you just continued about your normal duties for the rest of the day?
I did,
Did you have any idea at that time that a threat was made to us?
no,
Was there a point during the day where it was brought to your attention that there was?
yes, it was towards the end of the day, but not right around dismissal 4 o'clock, which is a very busy time. And, my secretary, sits at the back of the building with me. She came into my office and said,
I'm gonna object to what her secretary who's not here testifying said is not, I think it's admissible here.
And I can lay a foundation for why this was important to what happened next year.
Okay, well then do that. Otherwise it is hearsay.
So without telling me what your secretary said, did what she tell you, did that cause you to take additional steps or to do something, an investigation or something of that nature?
yes,
Very, very briefly, after what your secretary said to you, what steps did you take?
I contacted my chief of staff, who usually handles, threats to the school. I made him aware that there was a threat made to the school, and
So let me just pause you for a moment. Would you have contacted that person if you would have not heard from your secretary?
no,
What's your secretary's name?
Diane Hill,
Hill?
Hill,
Okay, so what she told you caused you to make that additional phone call?
yes,
What did Ms. Hill tell you?
I'm gonna jump again. What she said is irrelevant at this point. She's asking for what she did in response. She's already delivered.
Well, she already said that, so sustained. I think it's hearsay.
I'm just offering it for the effect on the listener.
But she already said what she did. And she said she called the higher up and reported the threat. So we don't need to know exactly what she said because that's a third person saying it, used to likely prove the truth. More prejudicial than probative.
So your secretary alerted you to something that you were not aware of before, is that fair?
yes.
Okay, and then tell the jury what action you took next.
So I heard the threat and I contacted, the chief of staff, made him aware. He told me, which he gives guidance, to collect a statement from the, guest secretary and that he was going to call the police.
Now, approximately what time was this happening?
This was right after dismissal, so 4:15 maybe.
And were the students still at school?
No, most of them have been dismissed.
Okay.
Usually we have a few hanging around, but most of the population is gone.
So you indicated that you told the guest secretary, Ms. Tansel, to make a statement.
Yes,
Were you there when she was writing out her statement?
yes,
And did she hand it to you when she was done?
she did.
Did you ask her about anything in her statement? Did you ask for more information?
I did ask for more information, because I took the statement back to my office as I was reading through it. What had been communicated to me, I didn't see in the statement. So I let the chief of staff know that, the full story was not in the statement, and, he again provided me with guidance. That was to call her and to ask her to repeat what she said. The threat that she said, because it was not originally written in the statement, so.
And so by her, you mean Ms. Tansel?
Yes,
Did you call Ms. Tansel?
Yes.
Did you go over her statement with her?
yes,
Did you write on her written statement anything?
yes,
Why did you write what you did write?
because what she said didn't match exactly what was written.
So you asked her those details and you added that in.
Yes,
I'm approaching with, well, why don't you tell me what that is? Is that the statement that you are referring to?
yes,
And that's the statement that you did make changes to?
not make changes, but I added to it. I added, continue to repeat, she was going to shoot and blow up the school.
So you didn't have any firsthand knowledge of that, meaning you didn't hear the phone call yourself, right? Were you on the phone with Ms. Tansel when you were making this change?
Yes,
And so is that why you made that change based on your conversation with Ms. Tansel?
yes,
Do you recall clearly that Ms. Tansel told you that that the caller had threatened to shoot up the school?
yes.
Did you at any point in time hear a recording of the phone call in which the threat was made?
No,
Are the phone calls to the K-8 school, the Bernie K-8 school recorded?
I'm not aware that they are.
Have you ever, in your years working for the Southfield Public School System, heard a recording of a phone call made to the receptionist desk?
No,
So all you had to go on was what Ms. Tansel heard. Is that a fair statement?
that's a fair statement. Yes.
Why was this such a serious ordeal to cause you to call counsel and eventually the police?
Because of the wording that was used when, I found out what the parent had said. It was very alarming, to find out that's what she heard, and then at the end of the day, I was made aware of it. So, that caused me pause initially, and then, to find out what next steps were, and that was to contact, my chief of staff.
After you contacted the chief of staff, did you happen to have an interaction with the Southfield Police Department?
Yes,
Do you remember how many officers came to the school?
2,
And did you speak with them?
yes.
What did you tell them?
I told them that I was made aware by my secretary that a parent had threatened to shoot up and blow up the school. And that they had received a phone call from the chief of staff to come up and collect the statement and the student information. And that I was made aware by my secretary that a parent had threatened to shoot up and blow up the school. And that they had received a phone call from the chief of staff to come up and collect the statement and the student information.
And did you give to the police officers that written statement?
Yes,
Was Ms. Tansel still in the building when the police arrived?
no,
So all you had for her statement was the written statement, right?
yes.
Did you give the police officers anything else?
I gave them, the student demographics from our, student information management system, which includes, street address, parent information, phone number.
I'm approaching with what's already been admitted as People's Exhibit 3. There's a lot of redactions on that, but from what you can read there, do you recognize that document?
Yes,
What is it?
it's our student profile, which I just described, comes from our, student information management system with the student information, parent information, address, phone numbers, emergency contacts.
And so is Ms. Miles' name on that sheet?
Yes,
Is she listed as the parent?
as a mother, yes,
Did you identify her by name to the police?
yes.
How did you know that it was Ms. Miles that made that statement?
Assuming it was, how did I know it was Ms. Miles that made the statement? When I took the phone call, her child was in there, so I knew I was talking to that parent. She wouldn't have handed the phone over for a different parent, so.
So she identified herself to you like on the phone, or you just knew because the student handed and you knew that was her mom?
Yes,
So you gave this sheet and the written statement to the Southfield Police. Do you remember if you gave them anything else?
I don't believe I gave them.
How long were they talking with you at the school?
Maybe 10 minutes, and then another, police car came, afterwards. But they were wrapping up at that time.
And then did you have any other interactions with the defendant or with the police regarding this incident?
No,
And just to be clear, you didn't hear any threats made to you personally, right? That information came to you from Ms. Tansel
yes.
and from
my
Ms. Hill.
Yes,
And the information that was given to you was specifically that there was a threat to shoot up.
shoot up and blow up the screen, yeah.
Cross-examination.
And prosecutor talked to you about the statement of Ms. Tansel, obviously you've seen this before, correct?
Yes,
And you would acknowledge, and you did acknowledge the jury made some edits to that statement, correct?
yes,
And that was based on what your chief of staff told you to do, is that correct?
yes.
Now, you personally are the one contacting the police in this case, right?
No, James Jackson contacted the police.
Is that your chief of staff?
That's the chief of staff,
Okay.
yes.
You did speak to the police in this case, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so you were present when the police showed up,
Mhm.
and you gave a statement to the police, correct?
I handed them the statement,
All right.
yes.
And you would acknowledge that Ms. Tansel herself was not present at the school at the
She
time.
was not,
All right. So the only statement that they were provided was the written statement that you had edited from Ms. Tansel that you gave to the police, correct?
correct?
Now, you also told the police what was said or what you believe was said based on what you heard, correct?
Yes,
You would acknowledge that you personally didn't hear any of the statements, right?
I did not,
All right. And you told them about what Ms. Tansel heard, correct?
yes.
You also recall telling them that Mr. Enoch had heard these statements as well.
I can't, you said, can you repeat that?
Do you remember telling the police that Mr. Enoch had heard these statements as well?
I don't recall telling the police that Mr. Enoch heard the statement.
That's police report.
Would, if you saw a report of the incident, would that perhaps refresh the recollections to whether you told?
I would have to see it because I don't. Oh,
Okay.
Hey, Pritchett.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm handing report number, page 6 of 7. I'm referring your attention to paragraphs 2 and 3. You can do that yourself. Let us know. Have a question, recollection.
Your Honor, I'm just gonna object that this witness has never seen this document.
Doesn't matter. She can use anything to refresh her memory, whether she created it or has ever seen it before. Overrule.
so where does it say this came from.
Ma'am, all you need to do is read it and see if it refreshes your memory about the question he asked. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
It was.
Okay.
I can't.
Are you aware of whether or not there was a police body cam recording at the time?
Yes.
You are aware that there is. Okay, so you would be aware that there's a recording of this interaction with police.
Mhm.
Would that potentially refresh your recollections of what was said?
It, but I saw it already.
Would you recognize your interaction with police officer?
Mhm.
Judge, I'm gonna just label this body cam video as defense A for the purpose of impeachment at this point. I'm gonna ask to connect to the screen.
Yeah. You want to do left lap down? Is there sound with it or no?
No, it should be. All right, Miss Pritchett, is this your interaction with the police?
Yes.
Okay.
When she called to the school, I was at work, I worked here, for understanding the person. And was asked to come out to talk to the parent on the phone, but she was upset. Well, when I got the statement from the secretary, she threatened to shoot up and blow up school. The secretary is a temporary person, so she didn't know this is urgent, maybe say something to somebody. Because apparently they're coming up to the school. We've been sitting down, so I heard from my secretary. And she was out of control. So I was getting ready to look up on the phone, they didn't get a trouble. We need to.
Yeah.
So I have her profile printed for you for address. And that's the statement from the secretary. And when she came up to the school to get her daughter, she threatened again. My office and administrator that was on duty at the time, was a teacher. And he was trying to calm her, talk her down. There was no success, so she did not take her.
Can you drive around to?
Okay, so when you say the other person, the administrator you're talking about, that's Mr. Enoch, correct?
Yes,
So when you say she threatened again, you're talking about to Mr. Enoch,
I
correct?
didn't hear that.
And I'm just gonna object to lack of personal knowledge, because witness has already testified that she was not present for the conversation between the defendant and Mr. Enoch. We've already had Mr. Enoch on the stand who testified.
I'm asking about what she.
She just said on the video. He can ask about. We just saw what she said on the video and she was reporting to the police. I think, don't let me put words in your mouth. You're asking her about what she was saying and why she was saying that to the police at the time. Yeah, overruled. You can explain that. Go ahead.
The person, the male staff member you're talking about was Mr. Enoch.
That's correct.
Okay. That's it. I have nothing.
Oh, okay. Do you have any follow-up? No.
Were you giving the police information about what you learned by witnessing it and being present?
Not by what I witnessed or being present, no, what I heard.
And so you were just trying to give the police all of the information that you thought they would need?
Yes.
Was Mr. Enoch still present at that time?
No, it was the police officers and myself.
So you don't actually have any personal knowledge about what Mr. Enoch heard on the phone or in person
No,
personally?
no,
He would be the better person to talk about what he heard.
yes,
And everything that you've given to the court today has been truthful about what you understood and you heard. Is that a
Yes.
fair statement?
that's a fair statement.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. All right, Ms. Pritchett, thank you so much. You may step
Yeah.
down. Next witness.
Thank you, great go. People call Officer Chandler and I'll just step out to grab him and this will be our last witness, Judge.
And the LER.
How are you employed?
The City of Southfield Police Department
How long have you been employed in the city of Southfield with the police department?
since 2022 in September.
What's your current role there?
I'm a police officer in the Traffic Safety Bureau.
And sometimes you have duties that include things other than traffic?
Yes,
And what would some of those things be?
I'm also a field training officer.
What does that mean?
When we get new officers to Southfield, whether they come from a different department or straight from the academy, I am part of the cadre entrusted to train those officers on police work and Southfield Public.
Can we switch the feedback to the?
No, I'm not.
this table?
I'm not looking.
They've got to switch it over.
I can't see. She's not there. Okay.
I can ask a few more questions. though.
I can switch it.
I'd like to direct your attention to October 24th, 2025. Were you working that day?
I was.
In what capacity were you working that day?
I was a field training officer that day on.
And what were you wearing when you were working that day?
That day I was wearing a modified uniform.
What does that mean?
I had jeans on and a long sleeve shirt, but I was wearing this outer carrier vest. It's part of the field training program.
Were you wearing a body worn camera?
I was.
Are you familiar with the policies of the Southfield Police Department regarding body worn cameras?
Yes.
And is it true that Southfield police officers are supposed to have those on when they go out to calls?
Anytime we have a citizen contact, we have to turn them on or record.
Very briefly, how does a body worn camera work?
Yes. So essentially, you just double tap this button in the middle, you start recording. There's a 30-second delay in the audio, but the video will start.
And I saw you tap that box that's on your chest. Is that your body worn camera?
Yes,
And you were wearing a body worn camera on October 24th.
I was.
All right. Now I'd like to go back to that date between the hours of 5 and 6 p.m. Were you dispatched to a location?
Yes.
Where were you dispatched to?
Bernie School, K through 8.
What was the nature of the dispatch?
It was threats report.
Did you have any other information at that point?
Not that I can remember without seeing the actual CAD notes.
Did you learn something while at the school that caused you to do some investigative police work?
Yes.
And what did you learn at the school?
Once we got there, we were met with the vice principal, Miss Pritchett, and she told us that through her secretary, a call was made to the school by one of the parents of a student there. And some threats were made to shoot up the school and bomb the school.
And did the school administrator, Ms. Pritchett, give you information regarding who had made that threat?
Yes,
Was the address of that person available on that sheet?
yes,
Did you go to that address?
we did.
Why did you go to that location?
Obviously threats against anybody, but especially against the school, are taken very seriously. Especially with a lot of things that are going on, we can't not investigate something like that.
Did you go to the Fairfax home by yourself or with other officers?
There were 4 of us total.
Do you remember the names of the other officers?
I do. Myself, Officer David Spence, Officer Kevin Slope, and Sergeant Garrett Rhodes.
Why do you go to the home with 4 officers?
As I said before, with field training, I was training Officer Slope, so we had to go together. Officer Spence was there to provide backup for us. And then, given the circumstances, it was necessary that a supervisor respond to that location as well.
And given the circumstances, you mean because it involved a threat to the school
Yeah, absolutely.
and the seriousness of that threat?
Yes.
What were your observations upon arrival?
I approached the home with other officers, and the defendant answered the door.
And by the defendant, would you just mind pointing to the person you're referring to?
Yes, Ms. Miles wearing a long sleeve white shirt.
May the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
So ordered.
So the defendant answered the door to the home.
Yeah,
Did she speak with officers?
she did.
And her statements, would those have been captured on the body worn camera?
Yeah.
Going to play for you what's been admitted as People's Exhibit 4. If you're more comfortable, officer, you can stand up or stand over here so that you can see the screen.
I'm good here. Thank you.
Now, you said that volume doesn't kick on right away, right?
That's correct.
How you doing?
Good.
Did you have an incident up at the school today?
Yeah, my daughter was about to get jumped by some kids, and I just went there and got her from school and took her back to work with me.
Did you come to the school?
Yeah, I did. I called to the school, they didn't answer. They tried to take her phone. So what happened at Gumpers a couple of weeks ago, I was worried about that. I got her from school and went back to the, I left the premises. You can see the cameras. I left. I didn't touch nobody. She was in a room with the girl that was trying to jump her. So I told them to bring her out the classroom or bring her out the room because that's a temporary principal. I don't know none of the parents there or teachers there. So I was just,
You want to come outside and so we don't have it.
well, hurry up.
Because we're just.
I just want to make sure all the jurors can see the screen. In the past.
If you have trouble, you can step outside and come this side of the rail and look if you can't see.
I mean, I want to have this conversation with your kids, young.
Okay.
You gotta make it done.
Did you make any, like, threats?
No, I didn't make any threats. I told them I didn't want to have a meeting. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to no kids. I said I was a parent in one school because I'm tired. Like my daughter got kicked out of the other school because of that. The principal put her hands on her and all that. So I just told them he was like, I want to have a meeting. Like let her have a meeting with the kids. I said no, but y'all had 2 days. She missed school yesterday because she was scared. So I let her stay home from school because I had to work. I'm a single parent. I work at CBS. But did they show you the cameras? I didn't. Maybe. I mean, I left the building. That building.
I mean, there was reports that you were making threats to the
I
staff.
wasn't making. I wasn't. I didn't. I didn't know.
And blow up.
No, I didn't.
You didn't see that?
No, I didn't make any threats. I said that this whole school would have to be like, because they're going to have an altercation and come to the parents. That's what I was saying. Because my daughter, like I could show the text messages when she was calling me, text me. And I text the lady at work, like my daughter, something going on with my daughter at school, like for me. I went to make the work and everything. I told her that I want to sit down and have a meeting and wait for South Philly police to come. And I told them no, because I was on break, a 30 or 45-minute break, because I didn't take my 15 for the 5-minute break, which I was there seeing from my little question. So I told them I just wanted to go back to Brandon and take my daughter, and I told them Monday I wanted to have a meeting with all the parents because kids is not the only dog. Like they watching these TV shows, these baby TV shows and all this. It just needs to just be with the parents because I know 2 of the little girls. That's how I was just because it was just like
You have any in the house?
heck, you know.
No. And would you mind if we check and make sure, just so we don't have to go any further than this?
Y'all gonna tear my house
No,
down.
no, we're not gonna tear your house. No, we're just gonna.
We would tell you, like, they never ever seen a gun, and only because of, if I'm gonna take my residence, my kid's father used to, he passed away now, but he used to have a gun in here, and they used to be scared when he pulled it out. But I don't,
There's no guns at all inside the house, and we can search. We're not gonna tear nothing up or anything with that.
oh, yeah,
Okay,
y'all can search.
okay, because we just cover our base, just do.
No, but I'm telling you, I didn't never say I was gonna shoot the school up. Like my daughter didn't even tell you, like they let me leave. Like they didn't have no promotions. The kids came to talk to me, like I know the principal. We've been over there for 6 years. I didn't been in different schools. They went to summer school at Barney. So I know the principal and everything. So he's an assistant principal. So whatever he said, it had to be, I don't know.
Ms. Miles,
Yeah.
is it any reason why they would think you said that?
Well, I said I would like we would have to shut the whole school down, which means not shut it down, like shoot it up. Shut it down to where we're gonna have to like let kids come out because then I'm gonna be crazy like pirate. I wasn't saying like I'm just saying I want to talk to the parent because she was feeling cornered. Like I could tell her text me before I to the school. They was like, oh, she's in the hallway. I'm like, what did the kids run up on her? Like the little girl was bad in middle school. So I gotta know my anxiety. They dad was killed by this stuff. It's real bad. So my anxiety, like, you know,
Officer Chandler, in your capacity as an officer for the years that you have been in your field training officer, did anything that the defendant said during that interaction, did that stick out to you?
Yes.
And what would that be?
I found it very odd when she started talking about having the school shut down. I found that very concerning as well.
And did you hear at the beginning of the video where she said she called the school and nobody answered?
Yeah.
Did you find it significant that towards the end of the video, she said that they said she was sitting in the hallway, meaning her daughter was sitting in the hallway?
Yes.
And why is that significant?
It shows a discrepancy between nobody, answering the phone at the school and someone telling her that her daughter was sitting in the hallway during school hours.
Do sometimes people lie to the police?
Yes,
Did you go into the house to search for a weapon?
I did.
Did you participate in the search of the house?
I did.
Was a weapon found in the house?
No weapons were found.
After the search of the house, what happened with Miss Miles?
Miss Miles was taken into custody for threats against the school.
Any further questions?
Cross-examination.
Officer, you were part of the couple officers that went to talk to Principal Pritchett, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were present when Principal Pritchett made these statements about what was said, right?
Yes.
And you would agree that Principal Pritchett didn't actually hear any of these statements or didn't allege to hear any of these statements?
No, she said that it was, at least the stuff over the phone was to her temporary secretary.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say that you as officer did not speak to the actual witness in this case, correct?
That's correct.
And you would never at any point spoke to the actual witness in this case, correct?
No, we weren't able to make contact with her.
Did you try to make contact with her?
My part, yes.
Okay. How much did you try?
He attempted a few phone calls to her, which were not answered.
I noticed on direct, you mentioned about her making the statement to the secretary. Do you remember her also making a statement about these statements being made to Mr. Enoch?
I don't remember, Mr.
You were present, correct?
Yes,
And you would agree there was a police report in this matter, right?
yes,
Would your police report refresh your, or would a police report in this matter potentially refresh your recollection?
sure.
All right. And Pritchett,
Yes.
and you page 6 of 7 of the police report, referring your attention to paragraphs 2 and 3 right there. If you could read that yourself as a recollection. You remember that?
Yes,
Okay, so there was a statement about these threats being made to Mr. Enoch.
yes,
Okay. You never spoke to Mr. Enoch either, though.
that's correct.
So the only person you actually spoke to was Ms. Pritchett in this case, correct?
And Ms. Miles.
Okay. You go to Ms. Miles' house, right?
Correct.
She denies it, correct?
Correct.
You search her home.
Yes,
It'd be fair to say that, you know, your line of work with Southfield police officers, school threats are taken very seriously, correct?
yes,
And everyone gets very concerned about that. That'd be fair,
yes,
right? And you guys, would it be fair to say the police department takes these matters with an abundance of caution?
yes,
Right. Is that why the request to search the house was made?
yes,
You would agree that the only statement you had was through a third party at this point?
yes, through Ms. Pritchett.
Ms. Miles was arrested at the end of this interaction anyway, right?
Yes,
And she was booked, correct?
correct.
You found no weapons in that, correct?
That's correct.
Now, at some point there's a discussion, I don't know if you remember this, is there a code, like, what's a 15? Do you know what a 15 is?
A 15, yes.
What is that?
A 10-15 or a 15 for short is the code for an arrest, as in we're going to place someone under arrest.
Do you recall at some point having a conversation during this interaction where someone said he wants a 15?
Without seeing it, no.
Okay. If that happened, who would be directing the arrest at the scene?
Most likely Sergeant Rose.
Okay, was Sergeant Rose at the scene?
He was.
Okay, so it's Sergeant Rose who would make the decision about whether or not to give him a 15 or an arrest.
He would have the ultimate say, but it would kind of be a collection of everyone who spoke to witnesses and had conversations with people. That yes, he would have the ultimate deciding factor.
Do you recall the phrase someone saying he wants a 15? Do you recall that?
I don't remember it specifically. We do tend to say that a lot, though.
Okay, so
It would make sense if it were there.
it would make sense if someone said this.
Specific, yes, I just don't remember it specifically being said.
Did you ever ask the school for any surveillance video?
I did not personally know,
Did anyone ask the school for any surveillance video?
not that I can remember.
Are you aware if any school surveillance video ever existed at any point?
Not anything that I was personally told about, no.
Okay. Did you ever make contact with Mr. Enoch at any point? You or anyone?
I did not, and I don't believe anyone else did, not as far as I know.
Did you or anyone else make contact with Ms. Tansel?
I did not.
Did you or anyone else have any further contact beyond what has happened today, or on this day, excuse me, with Ms. Pritchett?
No, I did not.
Did any follow-up investigation of any kind occur after this station? Either one.
Not by me.
I'd like to.
All right, any follow-up?
Are you the officer in charge of this investigation into Miss Miles?
No,
Do you know who the officer in charge of this investigation is?
not off the top of my head.
If I were to show you a copy of the police report, would that refresh your recollection? Just let me know if that refreshes your recollection.
Yes,
Who is the officer in charge of this
I
investigation?
would be a detective, Tyler Anderson.
Detective Anderson is a detective, so it's his job to make phone calls and follow up.
Yes,
Is that your job as a police officer in your role?
sometimes, but normally it is left to the investigators.
Do you know what Detective Anderson did or didn't do in this case?
I don't.
Is it fair to say that your involvement with the case was just at the school and there at the house, doing the search and speaking with Miss Miles?
Yes, and I did, participate in the arrest.
Was the arrest according to Southfield Police Department standards and policy?
Yes.
Is it common to have a conversation amongst officers present about whether or not there's going to be an arrest made?
Yes,
Is that done every time there's an arrest made with multiple officers?
every time.
Every time. Thank you, nothing further.
Anything else, Ms.
No,
Mahoney?
no, thank you.
Okay, then you can step down. Thank you, officer. All right, and that's the people are resting at this time.
Yes, Your Honor, people rest.
Okay. Maybe, yeah, come up here a second. Okay, All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a perfect time to break. We believe we just about done here, so we're gonna ask you to come back for 9 a.m. We may have one more thing to do before we instruct you, and then we're gonna get that case to you in the morning. So hopefully you'll be out well before noon. That's the plan. All right, so we're gonna let you go. We have some things to complete here, and so we'll have the court officer take you back and release you and see you at 9 o'clock. All right, everybody may be seated. And now the record should reflect that all of the jurors are outside the presence of the court at this moment. And Mr. McLaughlin had some things you would like to address on the record.
Just first is note for the record verdict. Obviously, this is considered in light of the most favorable to the people. I just believe that the testimony established cannot allow any reasonable jury to draw the conclusion that there should be a guilty verdict rather in this case. The testimony clearly establishes that there's frankly inconsistencies all over the testimony. And that no reasonable jury can draw that conclusion, Judge.
Your Honor, the people have provided evidence to meet each of the 5 elements of this crime based on Ms. Tansel's testimony. First, the defendant made a threat. She called and threatened to shoot up the school. The threat involved the use of a firearm. Saying shoot up the school necessarily involves the use of a firearm. It indicates violence against a school or school employees or school students. The threat was made by Ms. Miles intentionally. That's a question for the jury to decide whether that was intentionally and not mistaken, but there was testimony that she was upset. She was speaking fast. The threat to shoot up a school could reasonably be interpreted as harmful or adverse to human life. And this statement was obviously stated verbally through the telephone.
All right. Well, I guess the standard would be to look at this. Is there any reasonable jury looking at these facts and testimony in the light favorable to the prosecution could come up with the conclusion that this crime may have been committed by the defendant. And I agree with the defense. This is kind of interesting because the testimony is, here and there. Ms. Tansel did testify she heard the threat. She said shoot the school. She did say, yeah, there's, always some chance, but she believes that she heard this right 2 times. But didn't put it in her police report that she heard the word shoot up, but made threats. And then she said, somebody else added to her written statement, which was agreed to by somebody else who was the vice principal, Ms. Pritchett. And she said, I never said anything about bombing or blowing up or anything like that. So there's all kind of good questions of fact there for the jury to try to figure out, well, do they believe it? And then you've got the testimony, at least the statements made by the defendant in the video that's like denying, I didn't say this. This is what I said. And created some questions there about, concerns of the police officer said he had about, well, it looked like there could have been some inconsistencies there. So it's enough that someone, if you believe what Ms. Tansel said, could come to the conclusion that those statements may have been made. So it's a question of fact there for the trier of fact. People did give some evidence on each of those 5 elements. So I'm going to deny that motion.
Judge, and we can voir dire now my client, given this a defense case, and you stand. Ms. Miles, I've explained to you the right to testify or not testify in this case, correct? Yes. All right, so you understand you have an absolute right to not testify, correct? Yes. You understand that cannot be used against you in court of law, right? And in fact, the judge would instruct the jury that they are not to use your non-testimony against them in this case, correct? So you understand you can say no, you don't want to testify, and it won't be used against you in any way, correct? You understand it's absolutely your decision whether to testify or don't testify in this case, correct? Have you made a decision about whether you want to testify in this case? I want to testify. Okay. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do when we get started tomorrow morning, since the people have rested, she'll be your witness. And if she has any rebuttal, then she'll call that. Otherwise than that, I will start in with the final instructions, which, I pretty much almost got those ones together. It may depend on adding a few more in, such as, the defendant is testifying. So I guess I don't have to put defendant not testifying in. And just a few more to pull those together. We can take 2 minutes to look at that basically and make sure that we've got everything in that everybody wants. And then we'll instruct them. We shouldn't take too long. After we get to your closing arguments, we can instruct them. 5 minutes on the closing argument. I might give you 10 minutes. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
All right.
I'll do my best.
10 minutes for you both. Okay. All right. So barring nothing else, then we'll see everybody tomorrow morning at 9, but I'll probably see you at 8:30. I'm going to try to see if we can If there's anything to clear out before we start at 9, we could try to clear it out. And make room for this to start right at 9. Okay.